tie. Yeah.
Oh, that's it. It's just.
All right, let's get going. Clap your hands once if you hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you hear my voice. All right. Hopefully, the typing thing was fun. You got a little faster, or your accuracy improves. Hopefully, there's some improvement. But we'll keep doing it every like 2 to 3 weeks, and kind of see how we progress throughout the year. We'll have hard evidence of our improvement. That sounds exciting. Okay, so today we're continuing our objects lesson. So, right, objects. What are they all about, right? What is an object? Somebody remember? Marvin? That's right. So we've got our data structure that stores key value pairs. Perfect. All right. So how do I should make an object? Somebody help me make an object. Enter yeah.
Curly bracket. Yeah. Key.
Some kind of key. So let's say I make a name.
Colon.
Colon.
And your name.
My value. So okay. Perfect.
And close curly bracket.
Great. So I'll say like I'll make this the person. Let person. There we go. Cool. What data type does this key automatically become? Isaiah.
String.
String, right? So keys become strings automatically. Okay, let's remember that. So, how do I access something from an object? How would I get my name back from this object? How do I key into it? What's my getter method? Yeah. Jay?
We'll say person.name.
All right, let's do the one we learned yesterday. You're ahead. We haven't learned dot notation yet. We're going to do that today. You're not wrong. It's just or too early. Kevin?
So the person, square bracket, name.
Person, square bracket, our key as a string, name. Right? So this gives us back Corey. This is called a getter. So say a getter. This is keying into the object. Right? So then, unlike so if we didn't want to get something, if we weren't using a getter, we would be using a setter. So if we wanted to set something. So how could I set a value in this object? Let's say I wanted to set an age property. How would I do that? Kelvin?
You put person and then square bracket, name or what was age?
Age.
Yeah. And is equal to name age.
Perfect, right? So this is how we set. So this is a setter. So this key, right? Other words for these keys, we could say property. Property. We could also use the word attribute. Okay? Property, key, attribute, all of those words are synonymous. They're interchangeable. They all mean the same thing. Okay? So don't be freaked out if you hear someone say, like, what is that object's properties? Or what are the attributes that it has? That means the keys. Okay? So we've got our getter, our setter. The other way of phrasing those. We know how to get something. We know how to set something. How do I overwrite something? So if I aged a year, how could I do that? Somebody I haven't heard from. Rob?
I would put person brackets age in quotation +1.
So person brackets age. Yeah.
And then +1.
Okay. So we're really close. So what does this evaluate to?
100.
100, right? Because we've said it here. So this is just the getter. So if we just do 100, if we keep it like this and we just do +1, it does evaluate to 101, but there's no reassignment happening. So then it's just like we just did a math of 100 + 1, but then did nothing with it. So we actually want to update this value. Crystal?
Person age equals person brackets age minus
Age +1, yeah?
plus
Not getting younger.
yeah.
Yeah, right? So this would work, right? Let's not forget our shortcuts. All right, this is equivalent to person at age plus equals 1. Right? Let's not forget any of our shortcuts. It's the equivalent of person at age plus. Yeah? These three lines are all the same thing. Identical in function. Right? These are identical in function. Person at age is equal to person at age +1. Person at age plus equals 1. Person at age plus. Any questions on that?
So if you just put equal sign, then 101, it will just reassign 100 to the 101.
Yeah. So you're saying if I also did person at age and then just wrote a number, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, this would also reassign the value. Good question. Okay, so that's essentially everything that we had covered yesterday in regards to objects. There's not too much to objects, really. It's just getting used to manipulating them and playing with them. This is like 95% of it. There's not too much else. It's just dealing with objects in different circumstances. Ashia?
What's the difference between the setter and the
Getter? The setter and the getter?
No, the setter and the reassign.
The setter is this initial setting of the value. So previously, our person object only had name in here, and it didn't have the attribute of age. So by setting it, it now has the attribute of age set to the value of 100. These are reassignment. This is assuming that this has already happened. So we already have an age property. So once we already have an age property, the syntax is semi-equivalent. It's just that this is reassignment. Rob?
So with the objects, it has to be in the brackets, but when we reassign it, it can be in, it's got to be in the squiggly brackets, but when we assign it, it's got to be in the brackets.
Yes.
Okay.
This is an object's shape. This curly braces. The aspect of keying into it is with square brackets, same as arrays. Good question. All right, cool. So Jay Jones has something kind of interesting. He said person dot name. I don't know if we all heard him say that, but he did. And I was like, whoa, what is that? What's that all about? Well, he's totally correct. So if this was our person, let me make this bigger for everybody. I don't leave it giant when I'm because I'm not blind. Okay. So we've got our person here. We've got this age. They're married, and so just a reminder of what our object looks like. It looks like node.index.js. Oh man. So let's see. Let's just fix everything that's possibly broken. Well, these lines are definitely broken because these are just. And comment those out to put them in the highlights. Okay, so this is our object, and let's get rid of that extra console log. Okay. And we have our name, age, hair, size, favorite data, married. So we can do something. We've been using bracket notation, just the same way we've been using arrays. Name, identical. They both are going to give us back the value, of course. Tom?
Does it work for array too?
No, it doesn't work for array. This is objects.
Okay.
Yeah, good question. All the similarities were pretty much yesterday. Like all the stuff today are going to be, except for some of the looping you could technically do, is you could use an array for that too. I'll make an extra effort to specify which ones. But yeah, so this is only for an object, right? Because the array's keys are already set as numbers. So we wouldn't really do like dot a number. All right, questions on this syntax? All right, it's just a slight syntax change. So if this is how we did name, how would I reassign, let's say I lost my hair. What could I do to reassign the value of hair? How could I set hair to false using dot notation? All right, Jay Fowler.
Person, hair, equals false.
Okay, and let's do it. Let's check it out. Console.log person. And we have updated it, right? So they're equivalent, right? We got the getter, which is just a dot. We've got the reassignment, which is equals. Setter is the same thing. Let's add a new property. Let's add a favorite color. So how would I add a favorite color? I know you already know. Let's Will.
Person dot color
Okay, yeah. So we get the person dot favorite color. Yeah.
equals string blue.
Nice, good guess. Okay, right? And now our person has blue. So we can also add things to our array. You caught me. We can also add things to our object that way. Okay? So not too much of a difference. Just one is using those brackets with the string inside, it's a key. The other one is just using a dot. Now the reason I said I like bracket notation more is because let's pretend I add something in my object here. Let's say I say, or someone else has written, like I didn't write this, so I can't say consistent, but I said like, likes to eat. Somebody created this, and they've made it a key, and I put true. Oh, I didn't. Whoops. Hang on. Okay. So now I've got this likes to eat property, which is a string separated by hyphens. And you can see it shows up right here. Now, if I wanted to access that, down here, right? I can say person, and I can put in our bracket notation, likes, did I do a capital or no? No. Okay. Likes to eat. And when I run that, I get true, right? As we would expect. That said, if I wanted to make this dot notation, get rid of that, get rid of the string, and I just do person.likes to eat that way, and if I went to run it, it would freak out and say 2 is not defined. It doesn't interpret that as one concept. So that's why I do bracket notation. In some cases, dot notation is preferred, but in a lot of cases, like I would make bracket my default. But to each is their own. But you should be able to do both. Okay, so this throws an error. So let's say throws error. Okay. So I'm not that keen on the likes to eat property. So I can delete something from an object. This is how you delete something from an object. You write delete, you say the object, and then you key into it at the thing you'd like to delete. So I can say likes to eat, and then on the next line, I'll log our person. That's about log person. Run our program, and now likes to eat is no longer a property. All right? So that's how you delete. So we know how to add, we know how to get, we know how to delete. Any questions on those? Yeah, Sarah.
I also use the dot to delete.
Well, not here. We can try. Not sure. I really don't use that dot very much. That name. Let's see. Yep, you can. Good question. So you can use the dot to delete as well. But
The other one was the other dot, right? Okay.
this was the one with the bracket notation. Great question. Right, and when in doubt, try it out. Right? That should be like the motto. When in doubt, try it out. And whenever you ask me, like, hey, will it work if you do this? Like, I love those questions, but I love for you to try them and say, like, why does it work this way when I run this? I'd much rather you ask me about the why than the will. Because the will we can easily test. But still, definitely keep asking questions regardless. Okay, so we've got, let's see what else. Set, delete, add. That's like most things here. Something you should see is, the next thing we should look at is iterating through an object. All right, so let's talk about that. Let me move over here. I'm going to just comment out this line here. And I'll call this section iterating through an object. Okay, so we've learned our for loop. There's a different for loop for iterating objects. It's called the for in loop, and the syntax is as following. You write for, parentheses. So far, so good, right? Should be familiar. And then we'll say let. Hey, this looks pretty similar. But then instead of saying like I or something, we can say key or some other thing you want to use. This is the variable's name. I'm going to say key because it's going to act as the key. And then I can say in And then I have to specify the object. So I'll say person. This is the object that I want to iterate through. Curly braces. And then we can write our code block. Let's make that bigger. Questions on that syntax? So let's see it in action. So if I do console.log key, let's see what happens. Prints name, age, hair, favorite data, married, favorite color. Right? These are all of our keys in the object. Right? Just to prove a point, if I didn't want it to say key, let's say I say attribute. Oh, there we go. Rerun it. Still works, right? So that word key is a variable. I always write key because I can't remember things if I don't stay consistent. But you don't have to write key. But that's the only way I can remember that it is the key. So it's for let key in person. So what if I wanted to just print the values? What would I have to change here? How could I do that? Take a minute with the person next to you and see if you can figure out how to log each of the values. Now this is the first time we're seeing this.
Okay, I saw someplace else.
Oh, cool.
When it takes two, right? Console table.
All right, clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. All right, how did we do? Yay, nay, okay. A lot of like people without even thumbs. So what was the critical difficulty here? Can anybody pinpoint why it was hard? Yeah, Jay.
Because there's no set index, it's difficult to know how it can cycle through everything.
Okay, cool. So he says because there's not a set index, it's difficult to know. Do a lot of us feel that way? Okay, cool. Thank you. So we know how to get items from an array, yes? I mean from an object. Right, we have our object, our key, and then that returns the value, yes? We feel good about that or not? Okay, so if we feel good about that, why don't we trust in it here? Like, why don't we say person at key? Because if we do person at key, then we'll get all the values. Because the key is where we can use that key to key into our object still to return that value. So Matt.
So I was confused between that one and then object that values person.
What do you mean object that values first?
Because
Oh, the built-in.
on
Oh, that one? Yeah, we haven't learned that one yet.
okay.
We will. That's totally different.
Okay.
Well, it's different, not it's totally different. Great question. Yeah.
Key is essentially performs the function of I.
Yes, so he says key essentially performs the function of I. If we remember, what's an array's keys? The indexes, right? Or the i's. So an object's keys just happen to be the whatever they're assigned.
Yeah, so instead of equating it to a number, even whether you define it in a loop,
Yep.
just say key is, and it knows that you need whatever you identifying as.
100%, yeah. Right? So that's the whole object. The whole object is we got the key that points to the value. So if we key into the object, we get the value. So no matter what that key is, and in our for loop, that key, as we saw when I changed it to attribute, that is the name of that variable. It's a representation. I call it key because it is going to be the equivalent of the key. So we're gonna cycle through every key in the object. And so if we wanted to print every value, all we have to do is key back in to our object at that key. Does it?
Is there a way to stop at a specific value? Like,
Yeah, sure. So I could say if key like is equal to married, or I could just break.
I mean, like in the for loop, like it goes into a certain value.
Oh, I see. No, because when you're iterating through objects, you don't have this guarantee of order. Good question. He's saying, can we specify how many items we want to go through? And I would say no. You don't really spend a lot of time, honestly, iterating through objects. It's not that common that you end up having to do that.
So you can do also key, brackets key, right?
Yeah. No, not. Hang on, what? I think I might have answered too
Before
quick.
you did, to decree the keys,
Right?
console log key.
Just key, yes. Yeah. Correct. Right, so console log, I can do it like this. Key is key value person. So when we run it now, key name value Corey, key age value 2. Right? That's all that's doing. Tom.
So we can only use key in the loop and for in. Can we use without for in? Use key. First that key.
No, because without it, this is just a representation of that key in the loop. If you tried to key into person not in the loop,
Yeah.
just using the word key, it would say there is no attribute. It would throw an error saying there's no attribute key. Or it would return undefined.
Yes, because I tried it, doesn't work, so it's not.
Okay, yeah, good question. Also, in regards to your, is this like arrays? You can iterate arrays through that. You could say let index in and then the name of the array, and it would say 0, 1, 2. Because arrays under the hood are kind of like objects. Highly recommend you don't do that for arrays because it's unusual. Would much rather you just use the regular for loop where you do let I equal like 0 or the end of the array. But it would work to give you the index.
Got it.
Okay. Any other questions on the loop? Okay. So let's see what else. So you can have nested objects. So I'm trying to find it in the lesson, so I can just use that example. Comment that out. And I can have a closet object, right? And so in my closet, I could have two sections. I could have a summer section and a winter section. And then I have these identical categories for what I would do with my hands. So in the winter, I'm wearing gloves. In the summer, I'm wearing rings. And in the winter, I'm wearing a beanie on my head. And in the summer, I'm wearing a baseball cap. Right? Those are the two hats. So this behaves hopefully somewhat how you would expect. So if I wanted to access one of these things, I could say console.log. What happened there? Console.log, and I could say closet at winter. Right? I could also do .winter. That would be okay. If I do .winter and I run it, we'll see that I have now gone into the nested object. Right? So this is an object that is nested in another object. This is not unusual, especially when you go and interact with data on the outside world and some of the bigger data that we'll create on our own later on. Having nested data, not too nested, hopefully, but a little bit nested, very, very common. Like almost always. Okay, so this should not worry you. This should just be like, oh yeah, I'll just keep keying into it. So if I need to get to the hands in the winter, I can be like, okay, closet to winter. That would give me this. So now if I want to know what the hands value is, I would just do another one, right? This is pretty similar to how the matrices work. I can say hands. Try it again, run it. Now we get gloves. That's it.
Would the syntax normally be like that? Would it be like inline? Or would you have it like spaced out so that you have just a regular you know what I mean?
You're saying like this or something?
Yeah, does that matter? Or is the syntax normally like inline?
You'll see it in different ways. Usually I think you probably see it more like this. Like the first one there. But if it's not very long, I think this will like automatically, there's some way to automatically use a package that pretties it, and I forget how to do it right now. But let's see. Well, it didn't keep it consistent. So yeah, it won't. You'll see it different ways. Those are two different ways you could see it. All right, so with the person next to you, tell me how I would get back baseball cap. All right, work with somebody. And I want you to also figure it out in dot notation.
Remember this thing, the second line?
All right, clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. How'd we do? Yeah. Somebody wanna share? Help me get it? Yeah, Shia?
Then, console log,
Okay.
closet, winter,
Closet, what'd you say?
winter,
Dot winter.
and then before winter, yeah.
Yeah, and then what?
And then, brackets,
Okay.
quotations, head.
Head, alright. So that actually gives us back I think that's gonna give us back Beanie.
Isn't that?
I thought I said baseball cap, but
Oh, you
Let's
did.
go.
okay,
Oh,
I did.
So
So what do I change? That's summer.
Summer.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
sorry.
No worries. I'm sanity check for myself. Yeah, right. Baseball cap. So mixing forms like that is like it's feasible, right? It still works. It's a little unorthodox, right? Usually you want to stick with one or the other. So I'm just gonna stick with dot notation and go ahead and correct it from there. So we could say dot summer dot head. Okay. So your next challenge. I want you to create a fall collection, right? So I want there to be another key in closet for fall, and inside of that, I want hands as keys and head as key, and I want you to give them some kind of hat and something to put on or in your hand. I don't really care what it is. Okay? So that's your next challenge. Everybody loves the fall season. Tell me what I need to start wearing. Oh, okay. Clap your hands so you can hear my voice. So, based off of looking up a few people's, I think I may not have been clear enough. So, I don't want you to just directly edit this object. Okay? I want you to use the setting. I want you to be able to set something into the object, right? Because that's what comes with the challenge. I think we all know how to write fall here, right? I want us to work on manipulating this data structure. Okay? So sorry for the miscommunication. Let's try to get going.
Oh, I see what you're trying
Yeah, let's see that. Oh, I see. Yeah. That's some fun. Okay. Let's just do the first one.
Somewhere. God is hands equals we can
It's like a function that set a timeout. That's always All right, so let's talk about it. Clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. Okay, how'd we do on this? Yay, nay, okay. Kind of a mix. All right, that's fair. Mix and negatives. Okay. So without putting it up here, someone who felt successful, would you like to share yours? Yeah, Kevin?
I did closet, bracket, string
Paul? Yeah.
equals curly braces, hands, colon, pumpkin spice latte.
Pumpkin spice latte. Yeah.
Comma, head, colon, leaves.
Leaves on the head. Okay. Cool. Right? And so let's try that. So we'll do console.log closet. We will run it. And we see we have our winter, summer, fall. Way to go, Kevin. Awesome. Does anybody have questions on this? Like the people who are confused after seeing it, does this help, or is there still, or if you're still confused, like let me know so we can talk about it. Right? Without just blindly copying it. Like if you don't understand it, gotta let me know. Otherwise, I won't know to not move on. All right, I will move on. Then your next challenge is let's do it again, but for spring. But I don't. Instead of doing it in 2 lines, I want you to do it in like 3 lines, all right? So I want you to assign closet. Okay, let's be more specific. I want closet to get empty spring object, then populate spring object 1 attribute at a time. Okay? Questions on what I'm asking? All right, let's do it. Let's fill out the rest of the season.
And we need to compare this to okay, so 2 steps.
Are there any other case?
So spring, we need to do it in 2 lines. Oh, cool. Yes. Same for line 16. That's the
All right, clap your hands once you can hear my voice. All right, let's go over this, but also a little thumb feedback here. Thumb feedback. All right, cool. So of the people who showed me the thumbs, we all got it. Everyone else who didn't have thumbs, your voice was not heard. Okay. Can somebody help me write it? Yeah, Jay, let's do it.
So since we used brackets last time, maybe we use dot systems. Closet, dot spring
That's spring.
equals, and then parentheses, and then the next line, closet dot spring dot hands. What is one drinking? Ice cream.
Cool.
Closet dot spring dot head equals Yankee
Yankee what?
Yankee hat.
Yankee hat. Uh-oh.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah, I forget how many things.
I like it. I like the Yankees. I don't watch any baseball or sports essentially. Okay, let's check out the closet. Console.log closet. Right, and we've successfully added all of those properties, right? So we say closet.spring. This is saying at the key of spring, which there is no key yet at spring, but we can add it by doing it like that and assign it this value, the value being an empty curly brace. We can then continue to key into it. So we can say closet.spring. This is now an empty object. And we would say dot hands. So with the property hands, set that value to ice cream. We do the same thing for head, and we end up with spring now added to our closet. So now we're ready for the whole year. That's great. Yeah, Shia.
Could we have done it where we push instead?
No. So push is an array method. So we cannot use push here. Good question. Farah.
We did it different over here.
Okay.
We did closet, square bracket, quotation spring equals curly bracket, feet, colon, quotation handles.
So that's like what we did up here, right? On line 57.
Yeah.
So this one was given us slightly different instructions, but yeah, it would still work the other way as well.
But we did it after the empty string.
What do you mean empty string?
I mean, we did it after the empty.
Did you put new curly braces? Let me just take a look. Essentially just overrode it. So you did reassignment instead of adding. It's fine. There's lots of different ways to skin a cat. If it comes out the same, it's all right. You should just be aware that there's multiple ways. Okay, couple more things I want to talk about. This goes back to Samantha's question. She wants to know about object.keys. So object.keys is kind of a cool method. And I'm going to console log it. I'm going to say console.log, and I'm going to go back to our person object. And you can say object with a capital O. This means like the object class. This is a built-in thing to JavaScript. And you can say dot keys. And then you pass in the object that you wish to see the keys of. So if I want to see person's keys, I would say person. I can save it. And this gives me back an array of all the keys. That's just what it does. Yeah.
That's like similar to the
Yeah, it's similar to a for loop, right? I could then, if I saved this as a variable, I could then loop through that array with a regular for loop. You can use the for in loop, and then you kind of cut out the middleman. But you could loop through this array for sure. If you want the values, console.log, it's a little intuitive if you know this one. It's object, the object class, dot values, and then the object that you wish to see its values. So we do that, and then we get these are the values. The only time you would ever do this is if you didn't need the keys at all. So that's really weird. It's kind of unusual to need to just do object.values. I mean, it can happen, right? But it's a little unusual because if we didn't need the keys at all, why did we have the keys in the first place? Right? If we didn't need keys, we might as well have just used an array. So they usually they're going hand to hand. So these are just two methods that are on the object. It's actually called the object class. And they will give us back an array. Okay? Not too crazy, too many crazy things about that. Okay, so this is something. So if I said let object, and I did animal, and I said cat, and I had let object 2, and I said animal cat, console.log object 1 equal to object 2. What do we think? Okay, besides that, yeah, because this one you're right. And emal. You know I can spell it right. I did it the first time. All right, what do we think? Object equal to object 2. Based off of what we know already from JavaScript and using our pattern recognition skills, what do we think this is going to be? What? Anyone want to take a guess? All right, how about team false? All right, that's pretty good. Team true? Okay, fair. Hey, you never know, right? Stay strong. Unfortunately, on this one, it is false. All right? That's okay. Raise it. Who cares? Anyway, it has the same behavior as the arrays. Again, it's like pointing. You think about it as that kind of ice tray looking thing of memory, right? And the object is in there, and the variable name points to it. So if we set another one, it's comparing on the ID. It's not pointing to the same spot.
So if we set object 2 equal to object 1, then we'll come up true.
Yeah, so if we do object 2 equal to object, right, this is,
That's true.
then we'll get our true because they're pointing literally to the same spot in memory. Okay? So just remember that. That's a little gotcha. In Ruby, it works. It would work. It would work, and what's really nice about Ruby is no matter, even if the keys are in different order, it doesn't look at it like that. So, what do I mean by that? If I said name was Sammy, and here I said name is Sammy, right? Because objects don't have an inherent order, these to us should be the same thing, yes? But in JavaScript, again, they are not. However, in Ruby, they actually still would be considered good. Just fun little Ruby knowledge in case you ever want to learn it. It's a little bit more intuitive, I think, but you can't use it on like the front end of a website very well. Anyway, so keys, values, equality. The other common thing you'll see is objects that are the elements in an array. So let me see if I can find the example from the homework. So let's say I have films here.
I have a question before that.
Sure, go.
With the key, before with that rate, we use the rate, that index, to find out how many length of the in the rate. Can you use the same thing for object?
Object doesn't have a dot length property now.
Is that a way to find out the length of the object?
You could do object.keys the object and then dot length,
Okay.
right? Because you could turn it into an array. But there's not like a individual property. Not at this point.
Got it.
For for things that some things that behave like objects, there is, but this object specifically, no. So the other thing you might see a lot in life, in your future life of programming, is an array filled with objects. Right? Something to note is each one of these objects, in order for this to be helpful, will always have the same keys. Right? If we had one object that had name, director, release date, and then the next object that said like phone number, favorite color, hair, those wouldn't really be that wouldn't really be good data, right? We wouldn't know what we were looking at when and what it pertained to. So usually if you're looking at all like data of all these films, you'll get them as an array where each film has the exact same properties. It's just the values that differ. So what does that mean? Okay. How could we... Okay, so copy this. Here, I'm going to actually even post it in Slack because it's probably easier to find them in the notes. So in Slack, copy this into your notes. And I want us... Oh, that didn't copy everything, did it? One moment. The goal is I want you to print every movie name. Okay, that's the goal. There you go. Okay, so no need to like type it from just looking at it. So the goal is to print every movie name, just the name of every movie in that list.
There's arrows doing something
I think you have to change the quotes because of the way the
Slack.
no, because of GitHub. GitHub has like a different font that doesn't get registered. So you can just comment, empty and select all of them, change them all out.
Because if you click on Slack, string, this is the best time to change.
You can write command D and change it all. Let's see if mine breaks. I don't know. It worked on mine. Weird.
I have this issue, like, because it would be,
Got it? That's our rate. It's a rate. So try to find the index first. Find the index and object inside. Right. Like this. That's our rate. So going to the index, but then come to the point of the index 1. The sense that and the object is the name. You see what I'm talking about? It's a rate, it's not object. It's an array and it's an object.
So I see a lot of people trying to do their 4-in loop that they learn on objects, right? If we look at film is an array.
Yeah.
It's a regular array, so we don't want to loop through it the same way we did for our array.
Films on an and. It's pretty great. Also,
Why is there
I'm like, don't I have to drive? You know, like, are you really driving that? I don't think it's a problem, but it's a law. You know, I'll be like, you don't make it no worse. They'll be like,
All right, let's go over it. Clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Clap your hands twice if you can hear my voice. How'd it go? Yes? No? Maybe so. Yeah. Okay. So let's talk about it. Can somebody help me? How'd they do it? Rafid?
well,
Yeah, so we're going to do a for loop. The same as our typical array for loop. So we say for let I. Where's a good spot to start with I? Into it.
I is less than film.length.
Films.length.
Film.length.
Yeah.
And then I plus.
Yeah. Sounds good.
So console.log film I.
All right, let's pause up there first. So if I do films at I, right, this is like the same as what we've been doing with our arrays, yes? It should be. And if I run it, we can prove it. We'll see we print out each individual object. So if this is the current element at the time, how do we get the name? Somebody help me with the next part. Yeah, Isaiah.
After film that index I put in at key of name.
Yeah, so we can say key of name. Right? Because if at each films of I is that object, and every object has the same keys, we can also then key into that object at name, and then when we go to run it, we'll print out just the names. Okay? So let's prove it to ourselves that we know it. So I want you now to expand upon this in a way so that we get the average year of the release date. Okay, so write a code block. You can use this as your foundation, right? But I want to see the average year of the release date.
As the first year, but at the second
I know you can count 1 to 3. I want you to program it to me without
So you say, they'll put it in 3 years.
well, you put 3, so that's output, right? It's not dynamic. So if I change my object, your calculation are not good anymore, you see? So try to think about a way of like having dynamic outside instead of set. That's because you can read. But most of the time you won't be able to read.
Yeah, I was really happy to get that. So now I'm gonna.
That's cool. Well, you've done that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what is that?
that's the right idea. His name is a string or a number. His name is a string or number. Name is a string or number.
Oh,
That's a hard to sell. So that's
I'm sure that you have your right? If you want to have something separate, you need to run it inside. And the field 0. Outside the loop, I just want to this. I try to say you. That's what I meant. It's coming.
If you weren't like
Because
the back, they won't. You can't listen to you want to
I asked Cassidy, she said she could see. I
All right, let's go over this one. Clap your hands once if you can hear my voice. Just thumbs, yes, no, maybe so. Okay. So let's talk about it. What made this problem hard?
We had to add up the sum and then divide it by the noun.
Right. Okay. So what made it hard? It's a few more steps than the last one. Yeah. To be sure, we know, like, how do we add up the sum? How are we going to get the sum? Yeah, right? So it's essentially like 1 plus 2 plus, right, k, up to k over k, right? More or less. So for this problem, I forget the numbers. I think it's 1960 plus 1941.
In 1995.
Thank you. 1995 divided by 3. Right, and this should happen. Although technically you could divide each one by 3, I guess, prior to it, and add them still together. Right, you could do 1960 divided by 3 plus. Right? But regardless, this is generally how we think of sum. Yeah, Rob?
Was there a way of doing that with using the indexes for each one? Like specifically calling the release and saying, okay, the first release, second release, third release.
That's what we're going to do.
Okay.
Yeah, right? So first thing we need to do is create this sum, right? Whoa. So we say let sum equal, what's a good start number for our sum? 0. What's the rationale behind that?
It's empty. You want to add a number into the bucket. Add it up.
Yeah, right. Anything plus 0 is anything. Okay? So instead of this console log, let's wipe that out. No longer needed. And so what do we need to have on this line instead? Ashia?
Some plus equal to films at index I.
Films at index I, and then that's going to give us back that whole object. One more.
At release.
Nice. Perfect, right? If it's for me, just tell them I'm almost done and a call back in about 10 minutes. Okay, so I saw some people put their sum variable inside of their for. What's wrong with doing that? Isaiah?
Every time the loop is run again, it's gonna reset to 0.
Perfect, right? So if we put the sum variable inside of our for loop, every iteration, it's going to redeclare the sum variable and set it to 0. So that's not going to help us. So that's why we have to keep it outside so that we can keep updating it. So this is going to be for when the 0th indexed movie, its release date, the first indexed movie, its release date, so on and so forth. And then at the very end, what do we need to do? Console.log, our sum, and well, I can't say, I refuse to say 3 because I don't know how long my array is. Kong? Films.length, right? If you ever find yourself just saying the length of an array, know that you are probably going to screw yourself over for the next array, okay? So let's give it a shot. It gives us this number. What if I want to round this down? How can I fix that? Will?
504.
That's right. So I'm going to go math.floor and put that inside of the parentheses so that I don't have to deal with such an ugly number, but instead I'll say 1965 was the average. Any other questions? Any questions? Are we ready to rock and roll? Yeah. All right. So Celine has posted new pairs for the day. Oh, also exit tickets aren't due until tomorrow morning, early in the morning. So if you are worried about going home late or something, then that's okay. You can do it at home later than midnight. That's just a quick PSA, whatever it's called. Anyway, so find your pair. We're going to work on the objects lab. Submit whatever you like. Submit whatever you have at the end of every day. Always submit, right? That should be the process. However far you get. If you don't finish it, it's okay, right? Submit what you have. I think some of the future labs will have a cutoff of where like you should definitely keep working to. So like even if you don't finish, keep doing it as homework. But then like hopefully the goal is to eventually have labs where you don't ever finish, and if you just keep doing as many problems as you can/want, right? To a minimum amount of this. Okay, so no matter what, submit. It doesn't have to be finished, but then keep working on it just to keep improving your skills. Any other questions? All right, find your pair. Let's go. Let's do it. Thank you.